This is Possibility Politics, the place where we have love over fear, inspiration over desperation, kindness over rightness. That is how we're going to get through this civil war, this cold civil war. And the reason I say it's a cold civil war is because it's within us. You know, the previous Civil War, you could do geographically. It was the South versus the North. There was clear places where there were slave states and there were non-slave states, and you could battle it out. But the person that you want to kill is in the next cubicle. He's in, the next car on the road. He's just right there next to you. We're all amongst it. And so it's a completely different way to approach it, which I think is the next logical step in consciousness, because when you're in a simple lizard brain, you can fight with something that's away from you. But if you are fighting with the person that you are doing business with or interacting with or being otherwise kind to, you have to figure out what's within you and what's bothering you, which is why I bring up certitude versus understanding, kindness versus rightness. And it's a struggle. So I think we've got so many angry people. Let me play one example of understanding versus the crazy. And this would be, whether you like him or not, Mayor Pete Buttigieg on Fox when he went on Fox, went into the Lion's Den. You guys remember what Elizabeth Warren wasn't willing to go, which was also an interesting position to take, right? I don't know what you guys thought of that, but just to say, look, I'm not. There's no way. It's a house of hate, and so I'm not showing up. But then Buttigieg went in there and said this. So,
a lot of folks in my party were critical of me for even doing this with Fox News. And
I've heard that.
and I get where that's coming from, especially when you see what goes on with some of the opinion hosts on this network. I mean, when you got Tucker Carlson saying that immigrants make America dirty, when you've got Laura Ingraham comparing detention centers with children in cages to summer camps, then there is a reason why anybody has to swallow hard and think twice before participating in this media ecosystem. But I also believe that even though some of those hosts are not always there in good faith, I think a lot of people tune into this network who do it in good faith, whether it's going into the viewership of Fox News or whether geographically it's going into places where Democrats haven't been seen much. I think we've got to find people where they are, not change our values, but update our vocabulary so that we're truly connecting with Americans from coast to coast.
And this is where I will disagree sometimes with my co-host, and we've had some tension before in the past about this, is because I want to give people room to say that they they watch Fox News in good faith, but then they're consuming this stuff, and then they're making this choice of either to choose their certitude or choose their understanding, and even with understanding.
I'm going to go to Jack in the Box in good faith, and then I'm going to eat a bunch of processed food that'll kill me. It's the same thing you're doing when you're watching Fox News. You're watching processed crap that will kill you.
Especially after 5 p.m. Pacific.
Tucker Carlson is the prime. He's sort of the zenith of all that is nasty and horrible about Fox News, and he is a privileged, snarky little rich white boy.
Yeah.
Your mama is the Swanson's frozen food heiress. You've never struggled.
He screams white privilege.
He screams white privilege.
Yeah, I know.
And he always looks like he's slightly constipated when he's on the show. Like he's got a turd in there he hasn't gotten out since grade school. And it's just bugging him.
Well, on that note,
I want to say,
after the primaries, Bernie Sanders never stopped campaigning. He campaigned hard for Hillary.
This is the difference too. Yeah.
And he
just for the policies,
he went into, and he was an example for me. He went into areas that were deemed Republican or red. And here's the thing. He always talked about the policies that he believed in. He did not switch them so that they would like his message.
Yeah.
But he went in with open ears.
Right.
And so to me, he's a beautiful example of being yourself and being in your truth while also being open to, differences of opinion. But he never, he's for 2 years, almost 4 years now, he's gone all over the country. He didn't just go to Pacific Palisades, or actually that might not be friendly territory for him. But but the point is, he didn't just preach to the choir.
Yeah.
And so with the question about Fox News, it's interesting because on the one hand, you want to not just preach to the choir. You want to just not be in an echo chamber. Right. You want to get out there. And you know, I do
and
see
try
that-
to see them in good faith. And that's why I say if you know it's a war, and then when you try to go in there and say, hey, you know, don't you want health care? Don't you feel like we should love thy neighbor? And then when they say, well, they're sending rapists and murderers, then you just go, okay. And this has been my task personally. I don't know what you guys have done about this, but to be able to just peacefully say, okay, then that's where you are, and understand that in a war, they're not going to change. And the only way we're going to fix this is through elections and through constitutional, you know, efforts, through courts and through what have you. And this is just the reality. And so I think it's important for us to monitor our anger at these folks and try to be more Bernie
Interesting. Interesting that we have to do that, but they don't.
because we're the understanding ones. At least we want to be. If we want to be, I want to be.
I want
That's
to
the question. Because
be.
if you want to be a certitude person, you can be a certitude person. And this is the great question of our time. This is literally the
Like,
question of our
who do you
consciousness.
want to be in
Yeah.
this troubling time? Who do you want to be?
Yes.
Because that's your choice.
I just want to bathe in liberal tears.
Exactly. Or I want to see those Republican sons of bitches get what they deserve. You know, whatever.
You know what they deserve? You know what those sons of bitches on the Republican Party deserve? Good, clean water. Good, clean air.
There you go.
Health care.
There you
No
go.
more wars, and maybe some goddamn equality.
Yeah.
That's what they deserve.
But that's the thing about you. No matter how angry you get and you are always fighting for everyone's
That's
rights.
the idea.
You don't just say,
That's-
well, the people in the blue coast can have clean water and clean air.
because it's not just a blue coat planet.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a purple planet. We all hang out here. There's no plan B. There's no, hey, there's another Earth. Let's just use this one like a Bic lighter and we can go off to the other one. We can't.
Right.
And that's how the debate
Which is
needs
why
to
we
be
should have a
framed.
Green New Deal now.
Right, but that's how the debate needs to be framed. It's not climate change. Climate change. We're going to lose owls. Oh my goodness, the snail daughter's going to
No,
die.
you're going to lose your butt.
You're going to lose. Yeah. And here's the thing: we're not going to destroy the planet. The planet's simply going to shake us off like a dog who is tired of its fleas, and the planet will survive and probably
Well,
repopulate.
it's our self-preservation, right? We have to self-preserve.
That's what we need to sell. It's not the Earth. The Earth could give a
So
crap
what
less
I
about
find
us.
with the real religious right is they believe that God will not let anything bad happen to them. Therefore, it's okay to pollute the earth to the nth degree. No, I am so I don't know how to have a conversation
even
with
their
this.
book has things where like there's boils, there's frogs, there's earthquakes, there's tornadoes, there's a sandstorm. A woman got turned into a pile of salt because she looked over her shoulder. This is the book you want to
Sodom
defend
and Gomorrah.
environmentalism with?
Yeah, no. But so it's like,
there's
how do you, and they believe it's okay for people to profit because, you know what, nothing bad's going to happen to them anyway because God is going to save the righteous.
By the way, there
so-
are those that believe that God did put Trump in office.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Right, they're
no,
the
no,
same
that's absolutely. If
people.
you're old-time religion, you believe that God orchestrates every single event everywhere. And so in that case...
Netanyahu
it
believes
is-
he
it
was
is-
put in place by
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
They all say this.
So that's great. So here's our thing. So when we say that, what riles up in you? Because, you know, we have to get to a place where we go, okay, that's their certitude. They're not going to budge. And
That's fine.
You can't
I don't
let it
care.
drive us
I don't
crazy.
care if they have certitude. That's fine. But you keep your certitude and your Bronze Age thinking out of my laws. Okay?
How do you
I'm fine. You
conquer-
can be,
So
you can be as
that's where
certain
we
as you
go back
want.
to
You
his
do not
point.
legislate
Right.
my
Oh,
life
yes.
based on your certitude.
Okay, so I guess the point is once we're faced with that, we have to turn about face with kindness.
Right.
Rally with the people who will fight with us, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like Ilhan Omar, to
And
have
Nancy Pelosi and whoever else will get on board.
Bernie Sanders to have to save our planet
Yep.
and just keep moving forward with saving our planet.
Here's a possibility of politics. How do you conquer willful ignorance?
You don't. You have to allow it to be. This is the challenge, right? Because if they're willfully ignorant,
You have to let it
That's
die
it.
off, Brian.
then they will just have to die off. Again, I keep
But
using...
at what point does that message never die, though? Because that's where we're at. It's still just self-propagating. It's never going to
I
end.
think that's why
what they
you
do.
have to. This is where I have a problem with the Democrats.
Right? Okay, go.
They are all, except for Bernie and Tulsi Gabbard.
Who's technically independent. But anyway, go ahead.
They look at their campaign slogans. I'm going to beat Trump. I'm going to beat Trump. Trump, 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 Trump. you have to be for something.
Yes,
You have to
thank you,
give
Erica.
the people what they need. That is the winning message. And I don't see the Democratic Party doing that. I see Bernie doing
open
that.
up a little bit. Open up. It's happening.
Go ahead, Google somebody.
Look at all
and
the
it'll
stuff
be-
they're passing. And of course, everyone's like, well, what difference does it make if they pass this stuff in the House? Because you queue it all up and you show the voter in 2020, here's what we have all voted for. And they go, oh, wow, that's pretty great. And then you stand on the debate stand with that Republican member of certitude and you say, why don't you vote for those things?
So here's my political experience. And this is where you're
Bring it, baby.
naive.
I agree.
And this happened in Colorado recently. Democrats swept
Right.
in the state. And they all campaigned on parental leave. Okay? This was their big thing.
Family leave, yeah.
Family leave. And the Republicans were in control. And the Republicans weren't having it. And they're like, this is what we want. They got into control. They watered down the bills to make it amenable to the corporations.
Just like we did
And
with
that's
the
what they
ACA.
did. So I have seen this over and over again. I have seen Democrats say, we will fight for this. This is what, but look, these Republicans are standing in our way. And guess what happens when the Republicans get out of the way? They don't do it. Here's another example. The great state of California. Guess what, guys? We have Democrats. Yeah. We have what's called a super majority. We have what's called a super majority. Yeah. And yet, most of our needs, why didn't single payer pass? You cannot blame the Republicans.
One guy.
You cannot blame Trump on this.
One guy.
Unfortunately, it's more than one guy.
Yeah.
The governor didn't want it on his desk. And you know
Jerry
what?
Brown at the time, yeah.
Jerry Brown. And Newsom, same thing. He's taking money from private hospitals. He campaigned on single payer when he was in front of the nurses. He did. And then we've reached out for somebody to author a single payer bill, and no one in the supermajority
Wait.
Democratic legislator will do it. You know why? Because from the top down doesn't want it.
Okay, so maybe
What happened to
if-
SB 562 then?
That's what she's talking about. It's sitting in SB in the Senate. At
Rendon,
the Assembly shut down.
Anthony Rendon, the single payer slayer for all you Game of Thrones fans, slayed it.
That's what I thought. I know. That's why I kept saying one guy. Rendon.
But we are
tabled
a
it.
super majority. So
Vote him out then.
So another legislator, another member of the Assembly, another member of the Senate.
Bring it up.
Ben Allen, champion it.
Yes.
They won't. They haven't.
So
That's and it's you can't blame the Republicans for that. Okay. Am I in trouble now?
no, but I am gonna.
I feel like I'm in trouble.
gonna turn it back on you a little bit. So,
All right, give it to me.
because this is what I love about Erica. Because it's in one sentence, it's we have to be this person and we have to be.
I'm fighting for single payer. I'm not giving that up.
So
Me and two other people, we're still in it. Even though we have no allies in the bluest state in the country.
So let's do the theme of the show again, which is that one fear is obviously bigger than another fear, right? So what is the fear of these Democrats that's bigger than the fear of healthcare not being available?
I'm going to lose my job.
Californians?
I'm going to lose my cushy job.
How do they lose their job? You know this answer, but how do they lose that? Because
they get voted out by people who wanted what they didn't back.
Well, in this case, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, because you know this better than I do, but my understanding is the reason, for instance, the California Assembly won't get behind single payer, which would put it over the top, and then we'd be on our way, right, is because Assembly members, they campaign on maybe $10,000 to $80,000 is a campaign war chest for an Assembly member. And if they decide to go for single payer, which means the ends of the insurance industry,
That's right. That's what single payer means.
then they will get buried with $600,000, $200,000, $1 million. And for an Assembly member, you could never survive that wave.
Then get out. If you're not representing the people and you're a scared little bitch, get out of politics. Seriously, man. This is serious freaking business.
Yes, and this is to the point of money and politics. And the system is set up where even when you have good guys and gals in there, it is very difficult. It is very difficult to overcome a system that is set up to support the corporate interests and the elite. And
So-
I do understand. I do have compassion, like, about you lose your job. So what does that mean for your family? What does that mean for your health care? I get that, and I'm still going to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
And this is where it goes back to money is the gateway issue, and we have to get money out of politics.
So okay, so but it's multifaceted, is what I'm saying, and what could we do if we have to be for something instead of just against something? We don't want to just be against assembly members who are
Anthony
too chicken.
Rendon, if you take out SB 562 and you champion it, I will forever support you and bring as many people to champion that. And you know what, Governor Newsom, it was Saskatchewan. Is that how you?
Saskatchewan, yeah.
Who led Canada to their single payer movement in the
Right.
1960s. You have an opportunity to have your legacy remembered
Now you're
for
talking.
eons and
Now you're talking.
eons and eons. If you lead this country to single payer, and we can do it because we're the 5th largest economy in the world.
We have more
That's-
people than Canada.
Yes, that's what you have to gain from this.
Yeah.
So what you're weighing is the money right now, and I get it. It's millions of dollars, and that will give you and your family a lot. Or a legacy of bringing healthcare to everyone, and you will lead the entire country. And like Agamemnon, who was a king 7,000 years ago, you will still be remembered for this. You will never be forgotten, and you will be heralded. So that's
we California.
option.
Yeah, California is the tail that will wag this dog. eventually.
Absolutely.
Like most of the crazy, harebrained, lefty-leaning. Oh, hey, that actually turned out to be a good idea. Started here.
Okay, so in the next segment,
Also,
then.
hang on.
Go ahead.
In answer to your question that you proposed,
Okay.
you asked, what am I going to be for? The repealing of Citizens United is huge. As soon as you equated money with free speech, you gave corporations the ability to run roughshod over democracy
Yeah.
like that.
So we need a constitutional amendment there.
Yeah, we do.
And that's because that's the only way that's going to really overturn that.
What is that, 27 states?
Yeah, we had 3/4 of states.
Three-quarters of states and
yeah.
2/3 of the Senate.
Yeah, it's good. But that's doable. Not yet, but it will be.
It will be.
It could be.
And it
We
has-
might just
it
solve
has
too.
to be.
But we're getting into the weeds of that. But
Okay.
But we could have solved that, and we started to by Bernie led a good wave of single donors, and now all the candidates are refusing PAC money, and that's how you.
Thank you,
overdo it.
Bernie. Way to lead.
No.
See, Newsom, you
No.
can
Not all of them,
lead
but
like
Not
Bernie.
all of them.
Not all of them. So in our next segment,
Yeah.
let's get into the Democratic candidates. There's 24 of them. We don't talk about all of them, but let's talk about what they are for and which ones are focused more on against and which ones are focused more on for. Because if you want to win this, why did Obama get voters that also voted for Trump? Because he was for things and people could feel it and it was palpable and he believed, whether you like him or not, he believed. And so, okay, in the next segment, let's do that. This is Possibility Politics. I'm Jeff Stein with Erica Ferriston and Jeff Hendrick.